What if I told you that not every Israelite was considered a Jew, and furthermore, not every Jew can rightfully claim descent from all the tribes of Israel? It's a complex and sometimes perplexing history that has left many people scratching their heads. Are Israelites and Jews the same thing? Is Israel a physical land, a specific group of people, or a little bit of both? This question pops up so frequently in the comments section that today, we're going to dig deep and answer it once and for all. These terms, Jews, Israelites, and Israel, might seem interchangeable at first glance, but each one carries its own unique set of meanings and historical baggage that profoundly shapes how we interpret the Bible and understand God's unfolding covenant with humanity. Today, we'll embark on a journey through the lives of the patriarchs, starting with Jacob, the man who would later be known as Israel, then trace the path of the 12 tribes, the splintering of the kingdoms, the exile and subsequent return of the Jewish people, and finally, the rebirth of Israel as a modern nation. But before we get rolling, I want to express my sincere gratitude to each and every one of you for watching, sharing, and subscribing to Deep Bible Stories. So, if you've ever puzzled over these terms, if you've ever been curious about the nuances that differentiate Jews from Israelites and the deeper meaning of Israel, then this video is tailor-made for you. Stick around until the very end to get the complete picture of how God's covenant stretches across these identities. Ready to explore? Let's dive in and uncover how these names reveal the intricate and timeless relationship between God and His people. To truly grasp the essence of these identities, we need to rewind the clock and go all the way back to the very beginning, with Abraham, the father of faith. God called Abraham away from his home in Ur, tasking him with journeying to a brand new land, promising him descendants as numerous as the stars in the night sky, and establishing a covenant that would be passed down to his son Isaac, and then from Isaac to his son Jacob. Jacob is the linchpin, the key to unlocking our understanding of the term Israelite, because Jacob, whose name was later divinely changed to Israel, became the father of the 12 tribes. In Genesis 32, we read about Jacob wrestling with an angel, and in that pivotal moment, God bestows upon him a new name, Israel, which means one who struggles with God. From that point forward, his descendants are known as the Israelites, the people of Israel, named in honor of their forefather. The 12 tribes of Israel trace their lineage directly back to Jacob's 12 sons, each of whom became the head of a single tribe. This tribal identity, as Israelites, signified their inclusion in God's covenant and promises. They were set apart as His chosen people. Now, here's where things start to get a little more intricate. At this particular stage, they're all called Israelites because they are direct descendants of Israel, that is, Jacob. But this identity was shared equally by all 12 tribes, not exclusively by the tribe of Judah. The term Jew would emerge later, and initially, it referred specifically to people from the tribe of Judah, which, as we've established, was just one of the 12. However, as time marched on, the term evolved and broadened, eventually becoming associated with all those who remained faithful to the God of Israel. So, at this early juncture in history, Israelite refers to all the descendants of Jacob, while Jew hasn't yet surfaced as a term to describe any of them. After the reign of King Solomon, Israel reached a major crossroads, a pivotal turning point around 930 BC. Internal squabbles and conflicts led to a division of the kingdom into two distinct entities, the Northern Kingdom, which retained the original name of Israel, and the Southern Kingdom, which became known as Judah. This division had a monumental impact, profoundly shaping the identities of both groups. The Northern Kingdom of Israel comprised 10 tribes, while Judah, the Southern Kingdom, encompassed the tribes of Judah and Benjamin. The capital of the Northern Kingdom was Samaria, whereas the capital of Judah was Jerusalem. Because of this geographic and political split, people from Judah became increasingly distinct from the other Israelites and began to identify primarily with their specific tribe and the territory they inhabited. The term Jew originates from this period, primarily referencing the people of Judah in the Southern Kingdom. As the years turned into decades and decades into centuries, Jew became synonymous with those from the Kingdom of Judah who continue to worship in Jerusalem and diligently follow the teachings of the Torah. This period marks the genesis of the association between the term Jew and specific religious beliefs and practices, all centered around the temple in Jerusalem. In 722 BC, the northern kingdom of Israel was conquered by the Assyrians, leading to the exile and dispersal, or scattering, of the 10 tribes. These tribes became known collectively as the Lost Tribes of Israel. Meanwhile, the southern kingdom of Judah, where the term Jew had gained prominence, managed to hang on for a bit longer. The people of Judah continued to reside in their land, faithfully maintaining their traditions, their temple worship, and their adherence to the laws of Moses. This historical split is absolutely crucial to our understanding. While all Jews were, by definition, Israelites, not all Israelites were considered Jews. Israelites still referred to anyone from the 12 tribes of Israel, while Jew increasingly referred to those specifically from the tribe of Judah or the kingdom of Judah. In 586 BC, the Babylonian Empire, under the iron fist of King Nebuchadnezzar, conquered the southern kingdom of Judah. Jerusalem was razed to the ground, the temple was consumed by flames, and a large number of the people of Judah were forcibly taken into exile in Babylon. This profoundly traumatic event compelled the people of Judah to adapt and find new ways to preserve their faith in the absence of a central temple or a homeland. During the Babylonian exile, the people from Judah, now widely known as Jews, had to be resourceful and creative in order to hold on to their identity and their faith in a foreign land. Exile forced them to double down on the study and observance of the Torah. Synagogues emerged as vital centers for communal worship and learning, and rabbis rose to prominence as crucial leaders responsible for maintaining Jewish laws and customs. Unlike their Israelite ancestors, whose identity had been inextricably tied to a physical homeland and a central temple, the Jews in Babylon developed a unique cultural and religious identity that was portable and resilient. They strengthened their unwavering commitment to monotheism and distinctive customs, such as observing the Sabbath, adhering to dietary laws, and practicing circumcision. In this way, the term Jew began to signify not merely ethnicity or geography, but a specific faith and cultural practice centered around the worship of Yahweh. After approximately 70 years, when the Persian Empire conquered Babylon, King Cyrus issued a decree allowing the Jews to return to Jerusalem. Many Jews seized the opportunity and went back to rebuild the temple, but not all of them returned. Those who chose to remain behind continued to spread Jewish culture and beliefs across various parts of the ancient world, resulting in the establishment of Jewish communities that maintained a strong Jewish identity even while living far from their ancestral homeland. This period further cemented the term Jew as more than just an ethnic identifier. It signified a people bound together by covenant and shared religious practices. This Babylonian exile and the subsequent return created a foundational identity for Jewish people that has persisted through the centuries and is still very much alive in modern Judaism. The survival of the Jewish people through exile and return serves as a powerful testament to their enduring relationship with God and their steadfast commitment to preserving their faith, no matter the circumstances. After King Solomon's reign, the kingdom of Israel fractured into two parts around 930 BC. As we've discussed, the northern kingdom retained the name Israel and included 10 of the original 12 tribes, while the southern kingdom became known as Judah, encompassing the tribes of Judah and Benjamin. This division had far-reaching and long-lasting consequences for the identities of both Israel and Judah, and ultimately for the Jewish people. The northern kingdom of Israel eventually fell to the Assyrian Empire in 722 BC, leading to the exile of the 10 tribes. These tribes were dispersed across various regions of the Assyrian Empire, and over time, they gradually lost their distinct identity and were assimilated into the surrounding cultures. These are the tribes that are often referred to as the 10 lost tribes of Israel. The term Israel became more complex and multifaceted after this exile. While it originally referred to the united 12 tribes after the fall of the Northern Kingdom, it began to refer primarily to the spiritual and ancestral identity rooted in God's covenant. Many Jews, particularly those in the Southern Kingdom, saw themselves as carrying forward the legacy of Israel by preserving God's covenant. The Southern Kingdom of Judah, with Jerusalem and the Temple, continued to represent the center of Jewish religious life and identity. The 10 lost tribes became a significant theme in Jewish, Christian, and even Islamic thought, with prophecies foretelling their eventual return. In Ezekiel 37, the prophet speaks of a future restoration in which God will reunite Israel and Judah as one. This prophetic hope of a unified people under the Messiah is deeply intertwined with the idea that all descendants of Jacob will one day return to their land. The stories of the 10 lost tribes give rise to powerful themes of restoration and redemption in Jewish tradition, symbolizing the hope of bringing all Israelites back into God's covenant. The very idea of a reunified Israel has had a profound influence on Jewish identity, where Israel refers not only to the historic people, but also to the future, united people of God. The distinction between Israel and Judah, then, reveals a dual layer in Jewish identity. It is both a present reality, seen in the identity of Jewish people today, and a future hope, where the covenant with God reaches its full fulfillment. In 586 BC, the southern kingdom of Judah succumbed to the Babylonians, resulting in the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem and the exile of many people from the land. Unlike the 10 tribes of the northern kingdom, the exiled people of Judah managed to maintain a stronger cultural and religious identity as they continued to preserve their laws, customs, and traditions during their time in exile. It was during this time in exile that the identity of the Jewish people began to center more and more around the tribe of Judah, the lineage of King David, and the covenantal promise. The term Jew, derived from Judah, began to refer specifically to the people who had maintained their covenantal heritage through this exile, marking a definitive shift away from identifying strictly as Israelites. By the time they were able to return to their land under Persian rule, the descendants of the tribe of Judah, along with those who had joined them, were collectively known as Jews. This is why, in later historical texts such as in the New Testament, references are made to the Jews rather than the Israelites. Under Persian Emperor Cyrus the Great, the Jewish exiles were granted permission to return to their homeland around 538 BC, and they immediately began the arduous task of rebuilding the temple in Jerusalem. The construction of the Second Temple breathed new life into the religious life of the people, centered around the worship of God and adherence to the laws given to Moses. The return to the land and the rebuilding of the temple served to reinforce the Jewish people's unwavering commitment to preserving their covenant with God. The term Israel continued to hold immense spiritual and ancestral significance, as the Jewish people saw themselves as inheritors of the original covenant made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, also known as Israel. However, their identity was now more specifically tied to being Jews, descendants of Judah, symbolizing those who remained loyal to the covenant both during and after the exile. Thus, Jew began to encompass not only a tribal lineage, but also a spiritual commitment to God's laws and promises. Following the exile, Jewish religious leaders placed an even greater emphasis on the study of the Torah and adherence to God's commandments. This emphasis led to the rise of Rabbinic Judaism, where rabbis became teachers and interpreters of the law, guiding the people in their relationship with God and their observance of His commandments. This practice of studying and meticulously observing the Torah became a defining characteristic of Jewish identity, transcending specific tribal lineage. Rabbinic Judaism also further solidified the concept of a Jew as someone who maintained the covenant relationship with God, regardless of their specific ancestry within Israel's tribes. The unifying identity of being Jewish symbolized continuity with God's original promise to Israel, the people chosen to be His own. As the covenantal people, the Jews carried forward the enduring legacy of the 12 tribes, even though much of Israel's original tribal identity had been irrevocably lost. In today's world, Jewish can refer to a broad and complex identity that encompasses religious beliefs, cultural practices, and a shared heritage rooted in the covenantal history of Israel. A Jewish person may actively follow the religious teachings of Judaism, identifying closely with the covenantal laws given through Moses and celebrated in synagogues around the world. But Jewish identity is also profoundly cultural, linking those with a shared heritage that stretches all the way back to ancient Israel, even if they no longer strictly observe Jewish religious practices. Within Jewish communities, this heritage can manifest in many ways, including language, Hebrew, Yiddish, or Ladino, customs from holidays like Passover and Hanukkah, and rituals passed down reverently through generations. To be Jewish today means, in essence, to belong to a people who trace their roots back to the Israelites, specifically the descendants of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, who preserved their heritage through centuries of diaspora. Whether it's through religious observance, cultural expression, or lineage, being Jewish carries an enduring connection to the original covenant made with the God of Israel. The formation of the State of Israel in 1948 introduced a brand new dimension to the identity of the Jewish people. Following centuries of persecution, discrimination, and displacement, the Jewish people yearned for a homeland where they could preserve their culture and religion without constantly living in fear of oppression. Israel became that homeland, but in its wake, the definition of Israeli was born as a separate national identity, quite distinct from Jewish. Today, Israeli refers to citizenship within the modern nation-state of Israel, a country with a Jewish majority. It's important to remember, however, that not all Israelis are Jewish. Israel is home to a wide array of diverse ethnic groups, including Arab Muslims, Christians, Druze, and Bedouins. Thus, while all Jews can identify with Israel as their historical and spiritual homeland, not all Israelis identify religiously or culturally as Jewish. This crucial distinction between Jewish and Israeli highlights the complex layering of identity within the modern state. To be Jewish is to belong to a people with an ancient covenant and a rich cultural history, whether or not one actually resides in Israel. Being Israeli, on the other hand, is a national identity that encompasses people from various religious and ethnic backgrounds within the modern political state of Israel. Throughout the Bible, we see God making solemn promises to the people of Israel, promises that form the very foundation of their identity as a covenant people. This covenant began with Abraham, extended through Isaac and Jacob, and continued with the 12 tribes of Israel, ultimately forming a nation chosen by God for his specific purposes. From Abraham's initial call to leave his homeland to the giving of the law at Sinai, Israel's legacy has always pointed directly back to a relationship with God, built on obedience, faith, and unwavering promise. Even as Israel faced numerous challenges, periods of disobedience, and the pain of exile, God's covenant remained steadfast and constant. Prophets like Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel spoke eloquently of a future hope, a time when God would gather Israel from the far corners of the earth, promising restoration and renewal. This eternal covenant is the bedrock of Jewish identity and heritage, serving as a constant reminder of God's unwavering commitment to his people. For believers today, the very existence of Israel holds profound prophetic importance. Biblical prophecies speak of Israel as being absolutely central to God's ultimate plan for the world, a role that will culminate in the Messianic age. Scriptures like Zechariah 12 verse 10 and Ezekiel 36 to 37 foretell a time when the Jewish people will fully turn back to God, recognizing his Messiah, and when Israel will be both spiritually and physically restored. In Matthew 24, Jesus himself mentions Israel and Jerusalem as focal points for the end times events, further underscoring the prophetic significance of Israel as the epicenter of God's work in the world. These prophecies have far-reaching implications, not just for Israel, but for all nations, emphasizing the pivotal role that God's covenant people will play in the redemption and restoration of all of creation. While Israel is, without a doubt, central to the biblical story, the prophets also foretold that God's blessing would extend to all nations. In Isaiah 49 verse 6, God declares that his servant, the Messiah, would be a light to the Gentiles, bringing salvation to the ends of the earth. This promise was fulfilled in Jesus, through whom the covenant blessings extended far beyond Israel to every nation. Through Jesus, both Jews and Gentiles are invited into a new covenant, a spiritual family united in faith. Yet, Israel's unique calling remains. The Apostle Paul, in Romans 11, explains that God has not abandoned his promises to Israel. Rather, Israel's restoration is an integral part of God's grand plan to bring all people to himself. Paul's analogy of Gentiles being grafted into the olive tree of Israel beautifully highlights this shared inheritance, all while respecting Israel's foundational role in the divine plan. From the very beginning, Israel's calling was not simply to be a chosen people, but to serve as a conduit for God's blessing to all nations. God's words to Abraham in Genesis 12 verse 3, "All peoples on earth will be blessed through you," clearly reveal his intention for Israel to have a transformative impact on the world. Through Israel, God revealed his law, his prophets, and ultimately, the Messiah. The very message of salvation that emerged from Israel has indelibly changed the course of human history, profoundly shaping cultures and bringing hope to countless generations. Israel's legacy is a powerful testament to God's faithfulness, his enduring promises, and his unwavering commitment to bless humanity through a people set apart for his purposes. For believers, recognizing Israel's crucial role in God's plan is both a humbling and an inspiring experience, reminding us of our own place in a grand narrative that spans generations. The people of Israel stand as a living symbol of faith, resilience, and God's enduring promises. In them, we see a story that transcends borders, languages, and the constraints of time, a narrative woven with divine purpose that brings us all closer to the very heart of God's story. For every believer, Israel's rule serves as a constant reminder of God's steadfast promises and His divine plan, a plan that encompasses every nation. As we reflect on the subtle distinctions and powerful connections between these identities, we are invited to see the bigger picture of God's work in the world, a story in which we all have a part to play, united in the faith and the hope that began with God's promise to Abraham. If you found value in this deep dive into the origins and identity of Israel, please don't hesitate to like this video and share it with your friends and family. And if you're curious about other ancient nations or the prophecies surrounding Israel, please leave us a comment. Your engagement is invaluable, and it helps us continue creating videos that explore the mysteries and promises contained within the Bible. And, of course, remember to subscribe to Deep Bible Stories for more profound insights into God's Word. Thank you so much for being part of this journey with us, and may we all be inspired to walk faithfully in God's enduring story.